How's it going, Jared? My name is Nigeria Chambers of Big Gold Belt Media, and it is a pleasure to talk to you today about your new film. But before we even get into Aporia, which is going to be making this world premiere Fantasia International Film Festival on July 27th, you also have your theatrical release date set, folks, which you can check it out in theaters August 11th. With that being said, and we know how unpredictable the world is, how does it feel to have your third feature at one of the biggest film festivals having this world premiere and already have your theatrical date set?
It's amazing. I mean, it's like usually when you have a film playing at a festival like this, you're just like on pins and needles and really nervous. And like, what's going to happen? Is someone going to buy it? Is something going to, is one review going to tank it? Or, so in a previous life, I was a sales agent. Yeah, actually presenting indie films. So I tend to know everyone who buys films. So I'll sit there in the theater and one of the buyers recognize will be like, and adjust their, and I'll be like, oh my God, they hate the movie. It's like such an awful way to watch a movie. And it's like the fact, they were sitting on their wallet and they needed to adjust it. Who knows? So it's just, I'm so relaxed going into it. It's like, I'm sharing something I created with the world. And I know I'm sharing it tonight. And then in 2 weeks, it's going to go out for people to see. It's been fantastic.
Indeed. I love this film. There was a lot about it I love before I even got into it. It's brought to you by the good people at Wells Go USA. They have a fantastic slate of films. So seeing this a part of that, I was like, okay, definitely got to check it out. Then your cast, which is star-studded. We're going to start right there with that. One thing about this film, and I definitely want to tiptoe around spoilers here. If you read the synopsis, you know we're going to deal with a little bit of time travel, and with time travel being such a heavy subject in a lot of film and a lot of television as well too, also diving into a little bit of quantum physics. The film doesn't go so heavy into like the education, the theory, and even the sci-fi. The special effects that's usually presented around subject matters. But in fact, you do exactly what I loved here. You let your characters, you let your actors do the work. How did you, and why was that the decision you wanted to make? Obviously, having them on board should have been a no-brainer, but how did you pivot from what is typically the norm?
But to me, it's always the most interesting about sci-fi, and I love sci-fi, is what the power that they provides for characters, and people make these impossible decisions and see them react to it. And I really wanted to focus on the story and how the characters are emotionally reacting to the choices and the choices they're making, and the way it's shifting their realities and their worlds. Because to me, that is way more interesting than creating some fancy sci-fi world or watching some machine do some crazy sci-fi thing. And I even wanted like the way the machine was designed. It was designed to be the most unassuming, crappiest looking sci-fi time machine you've ever seen. I mean, Primer was like a reference, but we said, like, what if the guys in Primer built something, except they built it out of junk, out at a scrapyard, and probably it started 18 fires before they ever could even get it to power up correctly. Yeah. And, they're more likely to burn down the building than they are actually affect time. So to me, that the lo-fi element of it, to me, a lot more compelling than the sort of I've seen the hi-fi, version of it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Fantastic answer, and totally agree. And talking about your cast, Judy and Eddie here, I'm going to just tiptoe around this a little bit here, but I'm going to say what you did with Eddie very early in the film had me ready to really pass out, because I was like, let me watch my comments there. But what you were going to do initially, I was like, not with Eddie, but what a really good bridge to have us truly invested into, which we already know are two fantastic actors who really can bring characters to life, but truly can connect with the audience with emotions. Listen, this is an independent project here, and you got two big names attached. Having them on board, what's the emotions? What was the process? And what was that first thought when you seen them on screen together?
So it was It's funny. So we wanted to go after Sophie first. And so I've always loved Judy Greer. I mean, Judy has been one of my favorite actors for a long time. And I absolutely love her range as an actor. You know, so often people know her as like the best friend from all these comedy movies, but you watch a movie like The Descendants or the new Halloween. She has so much range, and she's an actor who can act so well with her face and her body, and she's like kind of got a lot of, I think, emotion that comes through sort of in a very physical way, that often again gets used for comedy. And I wanted to use that, what she brings, for all the, maelstrom of emotions that Sophie is feeling. I felt like Judy was the perfect actor to bring that character to life. And luckily she really jived with the script, and she and I talked about it. And we got her and we worked through the script, going through, trying to explain how she's feeling and discussing and finding a character that felt true to both of us. And once we had Judy on board, I knew I wanted a Mal who felt more of like a rock, who could act like, if Judy and Sophie are a lot more, sort of emotional and just emotional maelstrom, and Mal is like calmer, and he's a person who shows with his eyes. And Edi Gathegi was perfect for that role for me. Edi, again, like he's just this actor who is kind of, when he acts, he's got a stillness to it, like this, and then there's so much depth in his eyes, and you see it in Startup, you see it in The Harder They Fall, you see it in
For All Mankind.
For All Mankind, exactly. Like he brings so much to it, and so I thought they'd be perfect together. And and then, but you cast people separately, and you're like, okay, in your mind these guys are going to be great together. So I got to say, when they Edi wasn't on set our first day. It was all Judy stuff. And then when we had that first scene together, it was like, oh God, yes, there's so much chemistry and it works and you can feel them together. And I was like, okay, yes, we got this. We got this. It's a relief to see that connection.
Congratulations on that, man. What a moment. And with this being your third featured here, you also pivot from your first two, which were Westerns. What was sort of the challenges, the self challenges, and some of the craft that you had to kind of tweak, coming from, obviously your first film, and then coming back with your second film, which you obviously could have polished up from everything you did with your first, but now you took a step in a different direction. So what was sort of just that learning curve and the challenges upon making this film in a different genre here?
It's interesting. So one of the things I love about Westerns, where they are a way to sort of use a genre that takes us outside of the real world to explore, actual human emotion and things that are very relatable to the modern world by putting something in the past. And I think you can sort of do the same thing with sci-fi, where sci-fi becomes this crazy idea that you can use to explore our world. Yeah. So that part of it, sort of worked easily. But suddenly I went from being in this thing where I'm like, all right, I got to think about horses and cowboy hats, to like, oh wait, I got cell phones and cars and everything. Suddenly, in a Western, you could kind of get away with stuff in a Western because people don't really know what it was like. And chances are I've seen more Westerns than most people who are reading the script or watching the movie. So it's like, I can talk about it. And I also have read tons of history. I'm a total history buff. So it was like, okay, I can create that world, and it's that world, and people give it like a little, take grain of salt a little bit. Stuff that's taking place in the real world, they're like, well, would I call? Would I like, that doesn't feel like, it was like trying to balance. All right, now I have to write like people speak. I have to connect, to modern day speak versus like Western speak, which is a very different thing. So there was definitely a bit of a learning curve of how I get into it. And then, but once I kind of made it through that process, at the end of the day, it's about emotion and it's the character. And as long as I stayed true to those two things, I felt like I was able to, make a smooth transition.
Right on. Let me try to get these final questions in. You brought up Westerns real quick. What is your favorite Western?
Oh God. I don't know. It changes. I love The Wild Bunch. I love The Ballad of Cable Hogue. I love Unforgiven. I love The Man from Laramie. I love The Tall T. I love Searchers. I'm a huge, you need to give me a Western, I will watch it probably.
I can't believe Tombstone didn't get thrown in there that quick.
Tombstone is great, man, but Tombstone, everyone watches Tombstone.
Okay.
I talk to people who love Westerns and they're like, Tombstone. I'm like, hey, cool. Tombstone is great. I love Tombstone. Let me get at least a little bit further into the genre.
It definitely was my step in to go back and check out other films. But interesting. So I really want to ask this question again. I want to be very cautious about spoilers here. The ending, I thought, not only for our character, because I'll just leave it at that, but for the audience, very fulfilling. How did you write the ending? How did you know you wanted to land on this ending? With that, if you can detail the significance of the ending, I feel like because this film, again, with time travel, a lot of us realizes they think like, you're creating different timelines. Everybody has their version of what they believe time travel to be. To me, with this film, time travel was really about accountability, but also truly the ripple effects of, if you do one thing, how does that actually affect everything around you? You have this really righteous meaning or motive behind wanting to do something, but how does that affect other things behind you? So like it does really sort of come back to like self-accountability and so on. But then at the end, we have an ending that again felt very fulfilling for our characters, but also fulfilling for the audience. And I'm just kind of wondering, how did you really balance between sort of your science of what time travel and quantum physics is, and then landing on this ending?
I wanted an ending that both didn't have any easy answers, but also was essentially aspirational at the end. To me, this is a movie about a character who is struggling to fight against uncertainty and trying to find a way to control her life and make everything fall into really rigid patterns and be able to understanding. And the end of the movie is, I want to go to a point where she has to embrace that uncertainty. Right. And I think if you can believe that she grew and she changed as a character, it will feel fulfilling to the audience,
I agree. Well, with that being said, folks, you have 1 to 2 opportunities to check out Aporia here, which making this world premiere Fantasia International Film Festival, July 27th. And if you are not attending that film festival, it's okay, because it will be released in theaters by the great folks as well. Go USA, August 11th. We have just spoken to the writer-director, Jared, who really, really gives a lot of insight, a lot of passion and heart about this film that I truly think you need to go out and see. Folks, I know a lot of folks are very keen to, you hear time travel, you hear quantum physics, you're thinking a whole bunch of stuff. But this is truly about a family and friends really trying to make decisions for the betterment of what they think is going to sustain their family, but also ultimately with some unforeseen consequences behind it. And it's really character driven with a lot of heart, good acting, even with your young cast. The young cast is there bringing it in pretty early and like, wow. But nonetheless, it's a fantastic film. And I can't wait to see what you cook up next, man. Now that you're dancing around a little bit, now you got your passion projects out with the Westerns, but now it seems like you're kicking into gear. You're ready to tell some other different stories, and I'm looking forward to that. But again, it's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you. This is a wonderful conversation, man.
Absolutely, folks. Get in the comments, folks. Let us know your thoughts, your love, and support for Jared here and for the film. And we'll be back with more interviews and content right here very soon.